I'm sorry I'm so late, guys. I'm sick. Give me some wiggle room, okay? I think it's fair. Be nice to me when I'm sick. Not asking for a lot. Getting everything up. Get the live chat up as well for YouTube. Hi, y'all. Sorry. And literally, right as I start, the cat starts screaming, who has been totally not annoying for the last, 12 to 24 hours, and now suddenly is. Buddy, please chill. I have to work. Here. I'll let him say, he's going to cover me in fur. Fine, I'll let him say hi quick. This is he. Say hi. That is the silliest look, bud. I'm going to trigger his auto feeder quick. Of course, he jumps right back on my lap. Let's trigger that so he goes away. I have my strategies. Gonna do my tea bag before I forget. Oh shit, JPEG XL in Chrome. Fuck yeah. Good shit. Cool. Thank you all for the subs, by the way. I did just realize that the battery for my CO2 meter is dead, so I need to swap that so I don't accidentally kill myself by breathing in no oxygen. So I will go do that, and then we will go right into it. Sorry again for the delays, guys. Everything is breaking all at once, as it always happens. Thanks for the links. Be right back. And my thoughts on the Apple Creator Program or Creator Studio are that it's really cool. I'm excited for it to drop, and Adobe needs to be more scared. Do not see IKEA CO2 sensor. Be right back. Okay, everything's ready. Finally. Sorry again. I screwed my hair. Okay, no, it looks good. Good. Finally. Nice. Yay. Is YC ever looking for more money? No, YC doesn't take money. YC spends money and then gets money back from their investments. They don't take outside investors. Are YC companies ever looking for more money? Perhaps, but like the reason that the returns exist the way they do in the Y Combinator circles is because the investors have to put in the due diligence themselves. Like it's a job. It is one of my like 5 jobs right now. The vibe coding, yeah, from that. There's no way this is a good CO2 sensor. Like it just can't be. The like actual sensor tech costs at least $80. Is this stream going to be to talk about juniors? No, because I still don't know what to say to them. Okay, I have a couple sources I want to find quick. Give me a sec to grab them. Okay, you guys can help with finding the other sources. I want to find the other examples of really legit programmers coming around to AI coding. Okay, so we got that one. Cool, I'll grab that one. Cool. Okay. Okay. Thoughts on Claudebot? like it, and there's a ton of potential. I haven't had a chance to really get it working how I want on my setup. I have a Mac Mini in the corner of this room with a Jet KVM on it just to do that, and I really need to update it. Yeah, I kind of want to grab the Notch Conspiracy one because that was really good. He followed me. What a petty asshole. What a petty fucking asshole. I legitimately had no idea. God, this is a hilarious take. Man. No, I was just looking for me talking about Linus. This one I don't care about. I'm probably not going to put the Notch thing in the video because I don't really care or want to light up drama. Just amusing is all. Yeah, the anti-AI takes are kind of fucking nuts. Since a DM about building stuff to run agentic coding loops with open code and sandbox is very interesting. Definitely want to do more of that. You suggested this video. What was this vid? Yeah, oh, yes. This was fucking awesome. Thank you for this suggestion. I should have hit the like button because it was so good. There was one particular moment in here with a diagram that I adored. Where is it? It was about the scrolling on iOS and how iOS was thinking outside of the box. It was near the end. Here it is. This
and they added
was
something to it.
Sorry, I didn't realize the audio was playing. This was such a fucking clever way of putting this that like the iPhone was a subset of the things you could do on a computer, but it had a little bit outside of the usual UX. So cool. I have nothing to add on this. I am not thorough enough, old enough, or smart enough with UX to have anything to add here other than to say this is a really good talk from a really smart person. And I am thankful that they are working on these things because otherwise we would never see improvement. Like, this is such a good video. Highly recommend. I will spam the link in the chats, so if you guys want to watch it yourselves, you can feel free to. That did not inspire the building an OS tweet. I guess I could do a video on that first. All right, even DHH gets it now is the one I was about to write. Do I want to, because I don't know if I want to give away what I'm imagining with the OS thing, because we are now at the point where ideas matter a little bit more because you can vibe code anything. But the TLDR I'll give for the people who are hanging out here live on Tuesday. Thank you, by the way, all of you guys for showing up. How many do we have on YouTube, by the way? 800 of y'all. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. The general idea I have is that the way that we are abstracting our applications and OSs is just kind of wrong for AI code, where I have to split my work between 3 different apps where I have like my terminal, I have my editor, I have my browser, usually is the combo I have. If I have 3 things running at once, now they are all split across all of those things. Ideally, I would have each piece of work grouping the apps rather than each app grouping the work, so that I could have one instance that is one browser, one terminal, one editor for one thing I'm working on, one other for another thing I'm working on, one other for another thing I'm working on. And if I decide I want to branch and do 2 things at once in a given instance, I could trivially clone it and have 2 things running at the same time. There's a lot of little things that are really hard to get right here. Like, I want all of them to be able to use port 3000, even though you can't use the same port 3 times on one system, just so that you can handle like OAuth redirects and everything properly. Like those types of things, there's a different abstraction we need. And the way OSs work today does not allow for it. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and you guys got a spoiler of how I've been thinking about this. Lol. I uploaded one and then never made it live because I'm stupid. We just need nuke power so badly. Like, we need to heavily invest in nuclear power. Oh yeah, the node vulnerability is a little scary. I read a lot of Ramp's posts on Twitter, but I've not read their blog posts yet. The Apple Creator Studio for Students thing is an absurdly good deal. Yeah, I have this in the list here. There. Good shit. That is very annoying. Yeah, T3 chat's search indexing got fucked for some reason. I really need to figure that out. Just started using graphite and playing Outer Wilds. What a combo. Cool. Right parts of SF depends on what you're here for. I like being in the core area of the city, like around all the offices and everything, because then I don't have to like go as hard to like get somewhere. Specifically when I'm like wanting to like go to a meetup or something, or go see some friends, or go skate. Usually I skate to all of those things. Like, being close to everything without needing to like take an Uber is nice for me. Depends on what you want though. The more west side of things is much chiller if you just want a like nice traditional house. $5.9 billion tokens. Jesus Christ. Oh shit, Spacetime DB with the raid. How are you guys doing? Hope y'all are doing well. Congrats on all of the recent success and the TypeScript releases too. Cowork is really interesting. I have not used it yet. I've been using Claude Code similar to how Cowork works. So yeah. Happy to see you guys. Let me thank all the subs I missed as I was getting started. Sorry again for all the delays, guys. It's been a chaotic year, honestly, but the last couple days have been rough, especially while I'm sick. Thank you, CD Dev, for the 12 months getting us started, as well as the anonymous gift to Maria. Thank you both for that. 39 months total from CD. Legendary. Another anonymous gift to Abdul. Thank you for that. Bot Cooper, the fucking legend. 6 months into the tier 3, 41 months total. Tech Brew Boss with the 4 months of Prime. Appreciate that. Jiraj with the 41 months, a year of tier 3. Fucking legend out here. Dan Vale with the 21 months of support. Appreciate that. Hope you're doing well. I owe you a response DM. I am still sick and don't want to get anyone sick. That's why I haven't responded, but hopefully I'll be good soon. I'll let you know. Then Jacob with the 37 months of Prime. Always good to see you. Hope you're doing well and the new gig is treating you good. Yash, the legend, with 31 months of Prime. Thank you so much for the support. Capacitance with the 6 months of support, a year roughly. Good to see you. Dogpaw Hat with the 42 months. Balalatro with the 5 months of Prime. Chesk with a 5 bomb getting us started strong. Thank you for that. Matt with the 17 months. Nora with the Prime. Lily with the 19 months, 6 of tier 3. Always good to see you, Lily. Hope you're doing well. Nano Shrine with the tier 1. Arthur with the 4 months of support. Not Everest with the Prime. Ali on the Edge with the Prime. And Stuxnet, always good to see you. Hope you are doing well, girl. 39 months at tier 3, 43 total. San Fran for the Duckbill. Oh yeah, I'm sorry we couldn't hang when you were here. You can hear why. I wouldn't want to give this to anyone. And we got Lucy Dak with the Prime. Yeah, there's this awful, it's not the flu. There's an awful upper respiratory thing going around everywhere, but especially the Bay. Like almost everyone I know has it or has had it. And honestly, it's not hitting me as bad as others, but I don't want to get people sick, so I'm not going out a lot. Do I have plans to do a video on JJ? Probably, but I want to do a bit more first. Oh shit, you caught it too? I'm sorry to hear. Yeah, Corey's a legend. It's not COVID. I've tested the shit out of myself with every test I can do. Not flu A, not flu B, not COVID. Another Claude code degradation. I have not seen this, but I've mostly been using Claude code for like system management stuff. I saw the Age of Empires thing. Is this the Agent Sandboxes one? I'll keep an eye on this. Seems cool. All of this info is very public. There are lots of videos on it. Yeah, using the Linux VM sandbox thing is very interesting. Agreed. Thank you, Lucy, for the Prime and African Scam Call. Thanks for stopping by. 17 months support. Always appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. Yes, I've heard of Claude. I have it running on a computer right behind me right now. It's a Mac Mini I stuffed in the corner just for that purpose. Gonna use it a lot more in the near future, but haven't had a chance to really push it. I've been more focused on the new render rig that I just set up that has been crashing a whole bunch, which is annoying because I finally got a stock 5090. I was trying to for a bit, threw it in a new rig. Everything was going pretty well, but it was generating way too much heat. So this morning before I went live, I added 7 fans to the case and swapped to a much higher end power supply because the one I had in there was just an old one I had around. And now it randomly disconnects the GPU from PCI while it's running. So that was fun. I knocked the power limit down by 10% and haven't had any issues since. I have it running a bunch of generations right now, hoping that that works. So let me check the temperature in my network closet. It is 93 degrees Fahrenheit in the network closet. It is 75 degrees in here and 71 for the rest of the apartment. Such is life. It's in my network closet that I have to cut some holes in the door for better ventilation. It is 34 degrees Celsius. And the temperature of my apartment at 71 is 21 degrees Celsius. So that should tell you the difference. It's a 14-degree difference. Oh yeah, the Raycast can do temperatures too. I don't really convert temperatures a whole lot. Personally, I have not been as open code pilled. It takes a lot more customization for it to work how I want it to. Claude Code and Codex have been really good for me, but open code needs to exist. I'm very thankful it's doing so well, and it is destined to become the best option by far. For me, the difference is that open code really feels like it's trying to like be by and for developers, whereas Claude Code and Codex are more willing to forego the code side to make the long-term work thing happening. The UX of open code is significantly better than everything else. I'll check the DMs later. I saw you message me about that, Dom. Thank you, Defkill, for the Prime, Scuba Steve HD for the 6 months, and React with the Prime. Thank you. And a question, will easy access to AI models plant seeds for clever 1% like unique devs who make novel software, or just dumb us down? I think the prior, almost certainly. I don't think we're going to see more like really massive new frameworks anymore. That just doesn't seem likely or beneficial anymore. Do I know this person? Let me see when they worked at Twitch. Sorry, I'm just curious if I worked with this person. Interesting. We had overlap, but I don't remember talking with them at any point. They were on a team I worked with regularly. I'm a little surprised. Wrong blog. This is a funny thing. The TypeScript team taking time to meet with us, I did that. That was me. So if he was in that call happened because I reached out to Daniel Rosenwasser when I was a fucking nobody with like 30 followers on Twitter, and he responded for some reason. That was my first like cool, oh shit, you can just talk to people moment. Yeah, absolutely. AI as a teacher's great. Oh, this looks really good. Code is cheap, software isn't. That's such a good title. Who made this? That is not what I was looking for. Follow him on Twitter. Cool. We've talked before. There's a good chance he's down. I'm going to put this in the list just in case. Code is cheap now. Software isn't. Drop the link. Cool. I am sick as a fucking dog, guys. I can't catch up on all my DMs right now. Do you hear my voice? Do you expect me to be responding to every DM when most of my time is spent drinking tea and cleaning my apartment up? Like, I'm sorry. If I'm not asleep in bed, I'm trying to stay alive. I can't possibly be on top of all of my DMs at the moment. Like, I'm checking. I have 72 Slack things to reply to, over 400 on Discord, another like 700 plus on X. I don't know what the micro slop trend is. Can you give me a bit more context on that? Ooh, this is fun too. This I'll actually sneak in for a different video. But then the link's here. Interesting. Yeah, I want to sit down and think about how I would advise early career devs, but I just don't know what I have to say right now because it's Microsoft. Okay, that's lame. I was thinking that like people were using it positively because I've been making a lot of micro slop projects. Yeah, this looks fun. I'll link that. Yeah, I haven't been a junior dev in a long time. I haven't hired a junior dev in a long time. All of these things have changed a lot since then, and they've changed even more in the last 6 months to a year. I just don't know what to say yet. Yeah, this is definitely an unk moment. I already did a video on this a while ago about Apple and Google partnering. Right here. Thank you, Ines, for joining the T3 Club. You're one of the many people I owe responses to. I am sorry. I am sick. Thank you, Watch Jolly, for the Prime. Let me do my marker for my offset. We'll do 49.15. Should be fine. Done. Gotta blow my nose really quick. One sec. You know, I did a test with my voice in my office like an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, where I just like talked into a mic and made sure my voice was working as expected. And then I drank a bunch of tea to like get it where it needed to be. And it was in a good spot. And now it's gone again. Well, it's clogged, but this just sucks. So I was not muted for that. Yeah, auto code bench. Really need to look into that more. Thank you, Benji's, for the sub and the get well wishes. I visualize a lot. I'm constantly thinking in like 2D graphics effectively. New markup language, new parser framework, new syntax tree format for JS. Oh boy, very excited to see where that goes. Okay, let's figure out what we want to talk about today. Ben, are you hanging out in chat? Oh, hi, Ben. How easy is it for me to effectively copy your setup for Ralph loops in open code? Because if I can do that easy enough, I might just go for that. Cool. Master variant high prompt. Okay, so the two things I would really like to do today are the like even DHH gets this now. This is more like every or even like this senior devs are using these things, and Ralph loops. Like these are the two that feel like if I don't do them soon, they're gonna fall behind. This I'll sneak in. This fucking Lewis Campbell guy is the worst. He is. It's funny because that's not even like the good version of the like soy jack Theo. I have it. I was gonna set it as an emoji. Let me see if I can find it quick. I do want to make it an emoji. Okay, I found it. This one. I'll do it now. Let's. One sec. That's the wrong account. Fuck. My version. Da-da. Grab that. Upload. Cool. There we go. Not high enough res? Yeah, it is. Oh, we might actually not need that anymore. Let's get the link. Save Theo Soy Jack emote. Hop over to the Twitch dashboard. Make sure I don't leak things while I do this. Emotes. Okay, cool. This is fine. New emote. Downloads. Looks good enough to me. What should I call this? Soy? I think soy is the right name for this. Theo Jack? Well, I don't have Theo as the emote prefix, so T3GG Jack. Did I spell that wrong? Annoying. I did, yeah. Let's remove. Capital J, right? Don't know why it's not working for me, but whatever. It should work. One person got it working. Cool. That is done. I've been planning to do that for a while. Happy to have it added. Why soy Devin links it? I thought it was funny. It objectively was. Thank you, Benji's, for the sub, and NMG for the gift to Pranch. Don't gift subs until you have a tech job again, man. Cool. Let me just close all this shit I have open. Okay. Clean terminal, clean machine. Let me see if I got a DM back from the author of this, because then we can put that on the list as well, and then we will get started. I also forgot to go live on Twitter, so let me do that. Create broadcasts. I hate how annoying they make this. Cool. That is done. Thank you all. Auto feeder strat. What are you referring to, desync? I like this framing a lot, actually. Let's grab this. Well, thank you, Just Riosec, for the 4 months. That's sad to hear, NMG. It might be worth finding a chiller, low-key job where it's like 40 hours, but you can put in like 20 just to make money, save a whole bunch, and then fuck off. Like, that's a fine option. This is very interesting, actually. I'll save this to look into more later. Oh, that's sad to hear, NMG. I bet you could find something else like this. Yeah, Twitch chat is broken. It's nowhere near as bad as YouTube chat. Oh, you just caught up to the stream. Yeah, the auto feeder for the cat is a very strong working strat. Good to see you, man. Okay. I saw somebody made a terminal UI just for Ralph. There's a thing I kind of want to make. I'm trying to figure out how to package it for a video idea. It's like there's an explosion in the amount of pieces of software appearing right now. Stuff like this, the 3 different like Age of Empires agent manager things, the one Aiden just shared with Subway Surfers, all of the shit that Pete's building. He has like 30 plus fucking apps. Like, there's so many things being made now, like more than ever before. And if I could find a way to package that, they could do well. Trying to think of how I would frame that. I've talked about this so many times. I don't start from the code. I start from the pull request tab. Thank you, Just Riusek, for the sub as well. Get term. What is this? It's not too hard to set this up yourself, but yeah, I'll take a look at your solution in the future. Yeah, T3 shot was not vibe coded at all. Yeah, people are making agents of empires, which is a way to manage your agents in a game. It's not enshittification. People like, I don't think it's bad that we have way more software. I think it'll have weird side effects that we're not ready for yet. I'll save this to look at. Oh shit, Chris, you're watching live. I just saw that part of your messages. I was replying to your DMs. Don't know if you're in Twitch chat, but you can just DM me as well. I'm keeping an eye on that. For the senior one, there are so many ways to package that. This is a good one. What video is this? This actually seems like a very fun video. I'll definitely watch this later. What? Yeah, anti-gravity is his like thing of choice. It's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I want to play Hightail eventually, but I am very obnoxiously busy. Okay. I think we'll start with this one because I'm most confident I can gun this out and that it will perform well. Then play with these other ones. Another one I want to do is the death of the library. I have Conductor installed. It's really cool. Okay. Let's get started. I'll sneak this in. I'm just going to get a lot of these tweets. So I have an idea for the intro. This one I want here. Also here. Yeah, thank you, Maria. Very helpful. This is actually a very helpful one to have too. Alt-Shift-X to hide the UI. Yeah, I should do that. The problem is it shifts too far right, so my face starts to cover the side a bit. And then I have to turn on the sidebar to fix that. Like, this is perfect. But then I have to have the sidebar fixed. I think I prefer that. I have to decide. We can go with that. And thank you again, Prance, for that. Super helpful. Let's start. Just do that because it marks enough of the important pieces for the title here. This I don't need. This I don't need. This I have saved for another video. If I call Dan Abramov the creator of React, are people going to get it? Or are they going to be mad at me? It's one of my favorite jokes, but... Byte, you're asking a question I already answered for you as I'm about to film a video. Okay. I think I have everything we need. Let's get started. Oh boy. AI code is super. AI is really good at coding if you suck. Yeah. I want to go that angle, but I want to find the right wording so it'll be punchy. AI coding feels magical if you're a beginner dev, but that's okay. I have the rough right angle here. AI coding is really, really cool if you suck at writing code yourself. That's why we're only seeing junior devs who are using these tools. People like Dan Abramov, the creator of React, or DHH, the creator of Rails, or Linus Torvalds, the creator of Linux, or Antirez, the creator of Redis. Wait, they're not junior. What the hell's going on? Oh boy. It feels like there's just been an explosion in these really talented developers suddenly embracing and taking on these AI tools. It's been wild to watch. On one hand, I think they're a bit late, but on the other, it still feels like we're all so early. And a lot of these people, even the ones that I'm not necessarily the most fond of, have historically cared a lot about their craft and the details and doing things right. Which is why it's kind of crazy to see all of them embracing AI the way they are now. If I'm being honest, I don't know many devs who are shipping a lot of code that aren't embracing these tools at this point, especially experienced developers. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I've been thinking a lot about this post from Eric over at Cursor. Turns out senior engineers accept more agent output than juniors. This is a very interesting observation, and I have so much to talk about. Trying to think of a good transition. One thing I have to talk about first, though, is today's sponsor. Cool. Good enough. And yes, I'm still sick. Sorry. I have the terrible upper respiratory thing going around SF and the Bay right now. Hopefully, I'll have my voice back proper very soon. I started thinking about doing this video when I saw when DHH made this blog post about promoting AI agents. What he's specifically referring to is that the role these agents have in his day-to-day work has changed, and he is promoting them effectively to a higher level of involvement in his work in day-to-day. As he says here, I'm ready to give the current crop of AI agents a promotion. They're no longer just here to help me learn or answer my questions or check my work. They are fully capable of producing production-grade contributions to real-life code bases. Pure vibe coding remains an aspirational dream for professional work for me, for now. Supervised collaboration, though, is here today. I've worked alongside agents to fix small bugs, finish substantial features, and get several drafts on major new initiatives. The paradigm shift finally feels real. Yeah. So if you are talking about these things as though they're only useful for people working on small side projects, or everyone's favorite comment, Theo doesn't know anything about real big code bases, he only works on startup scale, your God and Savior DHH is now on our side. It's happened. These tools are no longer just ways to quickly edit some CSS on a page or look into how something works or answer questions. They are commanding real systems and doing real work. How you choose to use and embrace that can vary a lot. For example, Linus, who recently said that vibe coding is okay as long as it's not used for anything that matters, specifically using the definition of vibe coding where you aren't reading the code, you are just generating it to go do something. And he is putting his money where his mouth is and does this himself. He put up a repo recently for digital audio effects, audio noise, and he wanted to do some visualizers in it. And when he did that, he decided that his knowledge of Python and visualizations with it aren't really his strength. And rather than try to learn it and do it himself or go do a bunch of Googling, he actually vibe coded it himself. I know more about analog filters, and that's not saying much, than I do about Python. It started out as my typical Google and do the monkey see, monkey do kind of programming, but then I cut out the middleman himself and just use Google Anti-Gravity to do the audio sample visualizer. While I don't necessarily think Anti-Gravity is the best tool to embrace the modern AI coding experience, the fact that he is seeing value here is huge. If you haven't already watched my video on not falling behind with AI stuff, I highly recommend watching that because I go in depth on a lot of pieces on how to embrace and catch up on these things. One of the things that I really tried to push here is this idea of thinking out of the box. What are some things that you would build if you had more time and knowledge, but don't, so you can't? Like just little one-off tools that you wish existed. Those could be a library that exists but doesn't quite do what you want, or some web app to manage something in a game that you play. What tools, what accessories, what pieces of software don't exist that you wish did? And the more you can think in this way, where you realize that a problem you have in a big code base might not be best solved in that big code base. Maybe it's better solved in a small random repo next to it that lets you debug something or look into something or experiment. If you have a theory about a certain library you want to play with in your project, but implementing it in that project is too complex, you can go spin up something to test it out and test the limits. If you're curious what different AI models are capable of, you can build your own evals and scaffolding to test those things without having to actually look at, write, or much less read the code yourself. The thing to understand here is that AI can write code that works and solves useful problems. How big of problems you let it solve and how much you embrace that code is for you to understand and decide on yourself. One way of thinking about it is how much are you willing to let that code execute before it's worth reading? If you're writing some code to just run once or twice on your own machine, who cares? If you're writing code to actually ship to prod, maybe you go the more DHH way where you're treating it like a coworker that you're working with and reading with. It's also worth noting that DHH just a few months ago didn't think that these things were particularly good. He did a Lex Friedman podcast where he talks about this and said that he doesn't think these are great beyond the AI autocomplete. Actually, he says that that's not even that great overall. But now with tools like OpenCode, he is much more heavily using these things. Does anybody have a link to this PR that he got in on Redis? There we go. More fun examples from another fun examples. Another fun example is Anti-Res, again, the creator of Redis, which is a very, very important database tool for doing in-memory. Retake on that. Another great example comes from this PR that was just filed by Anti-Res, the creator of Redis. There's a dependency in Redis for fast float, which is a C++ dependency. He is annoyed having this giant pile of C++ in the code base, especially if you've used C++, you know how annoying it is to manage external code. It's rough. He's trying to get more and more of the C++ out. And he replaced this 3,800 line C++ template library with a minimal pure C implementation. And he has this note here. This code was written by Claude Code using Opus 4.5 and tested carefully, both hand tested and tested against the original implementation in a synthetic way. The code review was independently performed by Codex GPT 5.2. Isn't that wonderful? He did thoroughly review it with a different model. Yeah. And he posts all the results. It ends up being significantly faster and building faster and having less steps. All good things. This also touches on a topic I'm probably going to do a whole separate video on, which is the idea that libraries as we know and understand them now are going to start dying in favor of prompts and specs. So why is it that all of these senior devs are using these tools, but people who are less senior or more... So why is it that these specific senior devs are all embracing these tools, but a handful of other ones aren't? This is where my hot takes are going to come in, and we're going to start with Eric's post here. As Eric said, senior devs tend to accept more agent output than juniors do. This is for a handful of reasons. They write higher signal prompts with tighter specs and minimal ambiguity. They decompose work into agent-compatible units. They have stronger priors for correctness, making reviews faster and more accurate. And juniors generate plenty, but they lack the verification heuristics to confidently greenlight output. Also, you'll notice here, management and executives tend to accept quite a bit more, especially on the higher bound here. Staff does even more as well. The amount of code being accepted varies depending on your level. There we go. Cool. Let's talk a bit about why this is the case. Going to ask you a hypothetical question. What makes a junior dev into a senior dev? Just think about this. How would you define the difference between a junior dev and a senior one? I'll let chat participate for this as well. Seen a lot of pieces here, mostly people saying experience, difference is confidence and knowledge, seniors better at everything. One interesting one here is talks less, which I don't necessarily agree with. The way I would frame the gap is a combination of two big things: capability and clarity. These are the key skills you level up as you improve as a developer. Your capability goes up when you can do more work in less time with a better understanding and a lower failure rate. The clarity is really important, though, as your communication skills improve and you get better at talking about the things you're working on and sharing them the right ways with the right people at the right level of detail. The next question: how about the gap from senior to staff? What makes this? This one's a lot harder. Some people are saying a title has been employed at Fang. You're now a business manager, able to find large scopes, making more stuff in parallel. Some people are catching on to it. Responsibility, interesting. The ability to ask for pay and title rises, I would argue it's delegation and orchestration. The harsh reality is that one programmer can only do so much. And as you skill up and level up, you realize quickly the cap of your own capability as an individual typing code in a keyboard into a computer. It does not matter how fast a typer you are or how good you are at whatever programming languages and tools you use at a certain point. And if you continue trying to just skill up in your independent individual capability, you will hit a ceiling. Some people have an inherently higher ceiling for that than others, but it is effectively impossible for one really talented person to go as fast and as thorough as a team of well-organized and orchestrated people being led by somebody with a clear vision. So there's a couple pieces here that I want to focus on. Capability is what most people think of when they think about the level of capability, or capability is what most people think of when they think of the level of an engineer. Like, the more senior you are in your title, the better you are at writing code. And hypothetically speaking, the more well you'd be able to perform in like a competitive programming exercise, the faster you could build a solution to a problem independently. I would argue all of these skills are different as you level up. So if we were to measure all of these, we have capability. Let me just make what I want to do here. here's a lame way of looking at this. If you were to measure these capabilities by level, this is rough averages from my experience working with people in the industry. The capability of a fresh out of college junior dev, not going to be super high. Their clarity is in their ability to clearly describe what they're working on, why they're doing it, what problems they're running into, and what is important about the work they're doing. Also going to be very low because they don't know what details do and don't matter yet. I can't tell you how many times I was reviewing a junior developer's plan for some work, and they talk about things like the syntax or the language or whatever. Like, none of that matters, especially if you're working in an existing code base. Like, I don't need a section on how you expect to format the hooks in your React code. I don't care. Very common thing people do early in their careers. And their ability to delegate and orchestrate is obviously zero. They don't know how to break up work yet because they don't even know what the work they're doing is yet. Senior, you start to see massive jumps in capability and meaningful jumps in clarity, but delegation and orchestration usually still aren't strengths yet. But you'll notice here, the senior is already very close to tapped out both on capability and clarity. So getting better at writing code and getting better at writing about the code you're writing does not guarantee you anything. It's not going to get you a promotion. Being better at writing code is not going to be a meaningful improvement because, like, junior to senior, that's a 3x. Senior to staff, even if they were to be like 10 out of 10 or an 11 out of 10, you went from 3xing between these two to a 20% increase here at best. It's just not worth it. There's obviously a mid-level that goes between here that there's obviously a mid-level that goes between these, but I don't care. That's not what we're here to talk about. I'm trying to clarify the differences between these roles. It doesn't really matter how good the staff dev is at just writing code themselves because most quality staff devs aren't doing that anymore. They are now much more focused on how the work gets done, not how they will do the work. Ideally, a good staff dev is not diving into the details anywhere near as much. My favorite feelings I've ever had early in my career, the best feeling I had early in my career was when the senior and staff devs on the teams I was working with and around me when I was a junior would have their moment of realization that I knew enough of what I was doing that they could hand things off to me. And a lot of that came from when I went above the expectation for clarity in my earlier career stage, when I was better at describing what was happening and why a specific solution wouldn't work. That built massive confidence out of the staff and principal engineers that I was working with. This seems like a weird tangent to go on in a video about AI software development, right? Well, what if I told you these skills don't matter? Retake on that. Well, what if I told you this skill does not matter anywhere near as much when you're doing AI code? And these skills matter significantly more. Turns out being good at clarity when you're describing what you want to build, what's going wrong with it, what problems exist and how they should be solved is really useful when you're prompting an agent to do it. Turns out delegation, when you're trying to break up big pieces of work into small chunks that can be independently resolved by various parties, be it an agent or an earlier stage developer, is really useful for agents. And orchestration, obviously, very key for all of this. The harsh reality is that the harsh reality here is that capability has been over-indexed on for a long time in our industry. The amount of code that you can independently write has been this weird flex people love to do. And even still to this day, people love bragging about their GitHub contribution chart on their GitHub profile because how much code you ship has always been how we measure your competence as a developer. I've never liked this, I've never liked this, even though it was a measure that made me look pretty good because I used to ship a ton of code. learning that these other pieces, in particular delegation and orchestration, are essential to success as you level up and make bigger, more important software, was a really, really tough thing for me to get over. But I also think this is why I have been enjoying these tools so much, because I got over this in 2021 when I quit my job, made a startup, and now was blocking myself constantly and blocking my team too. These are skills I needed to level up on in order to do the work that I do. This is the same, and believe it or not, everyone we've just talked about, Anti-Res, Linus, DHH, Michael, the creator of Effect, all of these people have also really focused in on these skills. Many of them still love writing code themselves, but Linus doesn't write a whole lot of code in the Linux kernel anymore. It's very rare he actually writes a contribution. Usually he sends an idea to the email list, and somebody who he trusts will go make the changes, email him the patch, and if he likes it, he'll apply it. He's effectively the first vibe coder in this sense. He's actually reading the code, so that definition of vibe coding doesn't necessarily match, but the idea being writing down a clear, concise description of what you want and how you want it done, seeing a result, and then bringing it into the code base. It doesn't matter if it's an AI doing it or if it's a human doing it. These are the same thing. I see people having this realization in chat right here. It's true. People over-index on code, don't understand what it means to be an engineer rather than just a programmer. Yep. Software engineering is moving towards actual engineering. This orchestration, super important. And that's what's changing. And I don't want to call anybody out in particular, but if you do go look at the people who are really weirdly anti-AI code stuff, I won't say a thing about their capability because a lot of them are very, very capable engineers and have built incredible things. But if you look at their history, you look at the work they've done, you look at the ways that they've worked, the job roles they've had, and the teams they've run, if they've run teams, they tend to be lacking in these other areas, especially delegation and orchestration. That doesn't mean they're junior devs. It simply means that the skills that make you really capable with these tools are skills that are not their strengths. And if you're a 9 out of 10 capability engineer where you can write incredible code, but you're not as good at running a team or delegating across employees, this is going to be a lot harder for you. Thankfully, this is how we have mostly done titles in software dev, where senior is as high as you can get purely on your ability to write code, and then the rest tends to come from your ability to communicate, operate, and run teams. And agents are a really cool way to level the skill up early. And here's where we get to my favorite part. You can become a good manager this way. I think this is going to force a ton of developers to get better at things like clarity in their requirements, at managing work being done in parallel, at rejecting work that isn't quite at the bar. The only thing that it won't teach them is politeness, because it's a lot easier to tell an agent, your PR sucks, I'm closing it, than it is to tell a person on your team. But these skills are so important, just like on a human level. If you want to do more and be more capable, you have to get good at delegation and orchestration. You have to improve your ability to bring others into the work who might not be as good as you are at writing the code. Because that's one of the weirdest feelings you'll have. The first time you have it, I still have the weird feeling here and there. When I have work that I know exactly how I would do it, that I could go build in a day, and instead of doing that, I choose to give it to somebody on the team who will not take a day. They'll take 3 or 4 days. And the result the first time won't be quite as good as what I did. And then I'm going to have to give them a bunch of feedback and then wait for the next rendition. And this thing that would have taken me a day might take a week or 2 instead. That feels like a failure. And it feels even worse if you measure your capability and you measure your value by how much code you're shipping. If you spend your day in meetings taking tasks that would have taken you a day and breaking them out to take multiple weeks for other engineers, you're going to feel like you're not doing shit and it's going to suck. But then one of those things works and it ships and there's a bug and the person who wrote the code goes and fixes that bug. That's when it clicks why you do it this way. Because you can't possibly do all of those one-day tasks and then maintain those one-day pieces of work over time. But if other people build it in ways they understand, that might not be your favorite thing, that might take longer than you would have taken, it spreads ownership and understanding across the team in a way that lets you ship more with more confidence and spread the work around. It's not just the work with a team, it's the ownership too. And that's the one piece you lose with the AI. Claude Code isn't going to own a mistake that it made. It's not going to understand why there's a problem and fix it for you automatically. You can try to orchestrate tooling to make that kind of happen. But just due to how context windows works, they're not going to remember why they did a thing. So there are some skills you won't learn this way. But the general idea of letting go and realizing your time isn't best spent writing the code in the code file in your editor. It's better spent thinking about the system and how the pieces come together and making the details less your problem. That is key. And I think the best AI developers are the ones who have realized this. The people who are going the furthest with these tools aren't the people who just learned to code. It's the people who have been coding for a long time and realize these tools are way, way easier and cheaper than hiring a team of 20 people and getting them all onboarded. Yeah. So as crappy as it is to reduce things this way, I really think the anti-AI people just haven't run teams well and don't understand this part. And that's fine. Most developers don't. Historically, there have been like one person in this column for every 50 people in this column. The majority of devs don't have these skills. That has to change. More and more devs need to level up their ability to clearly explain what they're doing and why they're doing it. More devs need to get better at spreading their work out across people or agents, orchestrating all of it, and keeping all of it together. We're all managers now. If you don't want to be a manager, that's fine. I don't know how long your job's going to last. But we all need to do this. And the more you do this and the better you get at this, the more these tools will be useful to you and the bigger the things you can tackle will become. I'm sure this comment section won't be a disaster at all. Seriously, though, I hope this is a helpful way of framing things and that you take the opportunity to get better at this. I'm sure this comment section won't be a disaster. Seriously, though, I hope you take this as what it is, an opportunity to skill up your comms and your clarity as you describe the work that you want done, rather than an attack on your capability of writing software. The future is exciting, but only if you let it be, and I'm really excited about where things are going. Let me know what y'all think, and until next time, peace, nerds. I think that was a great video. Forgot I have Jira as a banned word. Staff Plus is all about, does your work move the needle? Absolutely agree. But in order for your work to move the needle at a real company, it needs to involve a lot of people. I'm not sure how far it will go. I've been thinking about this a lot. Resend whatever ones are important, Maria. Good stuff, NMG. I'm really happy to hear that. Oh, shit. You can adjust the width of the tweets in the settings? Oh, boy. Wrong button. Ah. Why do you think so far ahead, man? This is magic. This is so good. Thank you, man. You're getting VIP for that. GLM image just dropped? What? Auto-regressive open weight. Very fun. Do they have 8 editing as well? Supports image tasks, including image editing style transfer. Oh boy. Does Val have it yet? It does not appear to yet. Yep. I'm super excited to play with this later. Cool. This is a very good source. Thank you for this. I will throw that into the death of the library. I don't have thoughts on RLMs. I'm not smart enough for this. Thank you, Maria. Steph's going to be working with 3 or 4 pretty unrelated groups, just steering the ship and getting everyone to go in the right directions most of the battle. Yep. Perfectly put. Thank you, Sports Stuff. Sports Nuts. Appreciate the kind words there. Signal versus query-based compilers. Not loading. That's not too. That's not like super cheap, relatively speaking. Like a like seed edit is 3 cents per image, or Flux 2 cents per image. Like, it's not a massive decrease. I have seen this on Twitter, but I haven't seen the article yet. I will save that to look into later. Whole prompt model available, make it available to reference and let the model discover fetch the bits it needs. Interesting. Very interesting. I'll definitely read that later. I have so much shit to sit down and read. And no, if anybody thinks Nano Banana Pro has been dethroned, absolutely not. Certainly not as an open weight. The moment I talk about code quality, everybody's brains fall out. So I'm choosing to not do that. There's a bunch of benches for ImageGen, but they all kind of suck. Oh shit, Sty Pete showed up. Thank you, Pete. Hope you're doing well, man. Thanks for stopping by. I'm citing so much of your shit lately. Thank you, Cool Colby, for the Prime. Fusion323 for the Prime. Mitch for the 19 months of support. Zion with the Prime. Box Model Dev with the Prime. Lachlan with the Prime. Also, I'm going to give Sty Pete a VIP. And Icky's, or Icky S? I'm just going to call you Hess. Thanks for the Prime. Grounding work against since the current Epstein bench. Abilities to infer things from the redacted Epstein files. That is hilarious. I'm down to get you some credit for that. Email or DM. Email's probably best. You can find my email on my channel on YouTube. It's YouTube at T3. Oh shit. Bull Terrier. Oh. I love that my riding skateboard's in SF things that test people remember enough to use. Still want to go client side. We'll see what we end up doing long term. Talked about different else on the machine, looking for rebasing requires a reboot. This sounds interesting. Local tax out of scope. Yeah. Yeah. I think security's in for a really rough wake-up call. A topic I've wanted to talk about, but I just don't feel qualified enough to, is that like a lot of the recent exploits and this recent explosion of exploits has come from how good AI tools are at dissecting code. Like the React ones were found largely with AI. DistroBox and Orchestrator. Interesting. I will look into this. Yomiko got a CV as well. Okay, let's reopen to get on the latest. So target source code hack, I did not see that. Everyone locally is doing Java. Yeah, local jobs are always going to be weird. I wish I had more advice for these situations. My advice is always like come to SF, but Theo Sharp mobile app's making a ton of progress. Really excited for it. Please feel free to build things along the lines of the OS thing I was talking about and send it to me. I'd love to see. App stealing data from other apps, yeah, that is rough. Even something like Discord is so easy to abuse these ways because it just exposes a webhook. Or not webhook, a WebSocket server. Okay, what do I want to talk about? Want to be able to run really long work for extended periods of time in Claude or in open code, similar to a Ralph loop where the prompt keeps getting fed in until all of the work is completed. Implement this for me in a subdirectory in this project. Yeah, I'll try out the new plan mode in a minute. You know what? Yoink. Yoink. Start the new plan mode. Not looking great. Do that for now. Happy you're seeing the Christmas. I'm sorry YouTube can't be quite as crisp. Yeah, I'll never sell false hope. I always hate that. Zobacode have subagents. Yeah, you could also customize them a lot, which people really, really like. I know that Ben, who's probably still here, has done a lot of crazy customization for subagent stuff. And like often we'll run the subagents with different models that are cheaper. I don't think this needs to patch it directly. I don't feel like trying to figure this out. Like, I'm just not a big open code user yet. So I'm going to use my chaotic Claude code setup instead. Also, I want to... Can you clear all my customizations out of the status line? They annoy me now. It's easy and I'm lazy. If I was not live, I would take the time to do things different. Cool. Nice. I want to build a linear clone with or an elixir. Off a Kanban board. Tasks with task assignments and history. I got nothing for juniors and people who are getting started right now. JS injection to Electron apps fundamentally breaks macOS's per app permission model. Yeah. Retro web. Ooh. That is cool. Cool. Let me open this in a way that doesn't leak. Cool. I still prefer editing these things in an actual editor. Assignments, history. What else do I want in here? Deadlines and a dashboard to make tracking progress and slipped tasks easier. Go as deep as you can. I want a really thorough clone. Cool. I'm sure Ben is raging hard right now as I get this ready. Ultra Think's not a thing anymore. Keeping your mouth shut. Come over when I'm done streaming and show me how to do this right. We can pair on it. I wanted to get this running in the background so I can have it to reference while I'm filming other videos. Ooh, good question. Look at that, Ben. I'll just do live view. I'll make it do all those. I've used Plan Mode a ton. I'm not going to Vienna, no. I'm way too sick to leave. Vibe Kanban. Okay, I was gonna fucking build this. So I am absolutely looking into this later. who made this? Can I hit them up and invest? One of these people has to have a Twitter account, right? I guess Discord's where I'll have to go. I'll look into that later. Apparently AutoClaude is better. I'll try that one out too. You know what, I'll pull these up in here so I actually do them. I'll try out both. Automaker. This is yours, right? So much to try out. Goddamn. Knowing that you made it, I'm absolutely interested. I disagree. I think that the wrappers are in a much better place than the main labs are right now. We'll get all the drama with open code. This seems correct. I'm going to throw this in my Ralph Loops links. I'm still going to do it this way because I'm lazy. This looks great. You know what? I'll escape here. This looks great. Break the plan down in /plan. Plan.md with to-do style checkboxes for the entirety of the work that needs to be done. I'm not going to Vienna. I'm sorry, guys. I have way too much shit to do. I can't travel right now. Yeah, thanks, Doc, for the sub and showing up. Good to see you as always. Pizza Man 420, Doc with the tier 3 for 3 months, and Original Scry with the subs. Appreciate you all. I have not played with Cowork yet, Code King. I'm hoping to soon. The Vibe, or co-founder of Vibe Kanban. DM'd. You guys are legends. Thank you all. I have to take the implement everything in the ./plan.md file. Start wherever the first incomplete task is located. Make a commit after every task is completed. When all tasks are done. Give it 200. I was going to say I'll tell it to use the front end design skill here. Use your front end design skill to make it beautiful. Cool. Unknown skill Ralph loop. What the fuck do you mean? That's really dumb syntax. I don't have Elixir or Phoenix configured, so I was going to have to figure that all out. Oh, I have to turn off safety net. Let me do that quick, actually. Turn that one on. Installed. Can I disable this? Disabled. Yeah, it's all fine. Resume. Cool. And now I should be able to do whatever it needs and possibly nuke my system in the process. Short bit, what do you got for me? Any toying to learn in loops. Yeah, this will be a fun read later. I'll look into this more later. Not the topic I want to be distracted by right now. Cool. Now that's going. I feel like I have a fun background job. Let's do the code isn't cheap while that one's running. Do I still have that command? Yeah, it's complicated. I think that's funny for now because that is the real answer. Yeah, this is Zen. The one with the sidebar is Zen. The one with the top bar is Helium. Oh shit, code stirring. Thank you, man. Fun seeing all these notifications from the work that's going on here. Cool. I get my dev tools, full disk access. Yeah. I'm waiting to get burned so I have content. Yeah, the author is in chat now and is excited for it. Give me one sec. Should probably check what it's doing before I give it this permission. I'm going to say YOLO. Oh, it's Codex bar. That's fine. Yeah. Codex bar shows what my usage is across all of these apps. We can see how long until I run out of usage on Claude Code. Let's do this. Drink some tea first, blow my nose. Okay, I think I'm ready to go. My voice feels better too. Yeah, I'm aware of this. It'll be fun to see how it breaks my things. Well, that's running. I'll probably talk about JPEG XL when it ships, yeah. Okay, this should be fun. Yeah. Over the last few decades, code has always been really expensive. It's gone down some amount from when we were doing punch cards back in the day, but for the most part, code has been an expensive thing. That's why so many companies had to employ such a large number of expensive engineers. It's why we were all pressured to go to college to learn how to code so that we could make the margins work a little better for those companies. That's why we've heard of all these crazy salaries being taken home by these people throughout our entire lives for the most part. I still remember back in high school where I was pitched this concept of Google being the coolest place in the world to work. And here we are today, and everything is changing. Code is no longer this super expensive thing that we don't have a lot of. If anything, code is now prolific. There is more of it than ever. But software, the thing that we actually want the code to provide for us, has become as if not more expensive as a result. And it's really weird to see this shift happening in real time. Yes, this is an AI thing, but it goes deeper than that. The software we use is fundamentally changing because the code underneath it is too. I'd go as far as to say that this is a similar type of revolution. I'd go as far as to say this is similar to when compilers happened, where all of a sudden code wasn't this really hard to reason about stuff that was weird syntax managing memory. C made it so you could write code that was a much easier thing to understand as a human, and we stopped thinking about the assembly code over time. I think we're going in the same direction with software as well, where the software is the thing we care about, but the code underneath matters less and less. I saw this article recently published. Let me grab the author's Twitter. Yeah. No, that's not the way to get to his Twitter. Oh, it was at the bottom of the article, just not that button. There we go. Yeah. I just saw this article written by Chris that I'm super excited to dig into because I just saw this article written by Chris and inspired me to go deep on this topic. It's a thing I've been thinking a lot about. The higher level of the things we use matters more than ever, but the details are starting to matter less. This hurts me as a developer who cares a lot about software, but it also excites me as a person who cares about the experiences that they use every single day. Do you know what else you should use there? Do you know what you should be using, though? today's sponsor. Cool. And now we can do the actual topic. Quick shout out to Chris Gregory for giving me permission to read and take a huge shout out to Chris Gregory for letting me read this article and use it as a reference point for the stream and video. I'm super excited to dig in. This is a thing I've been thinking a lot about, and it's such a good way of framing it too. The barrier to entry for building software has collapsed. The barrier to building something that matters hasn't moved an inch. Yep. Claude Code and Opus 4.5 have poured fuel on the hype. LLM tools existed before, but they're better than ever now. And so a lot more people are paying attention. But we're not entering a golden age of SaaS. We're entering an era of personal, disposable software, where engineering shifts from writing code to shaping systems, and engineers are still required for exactly that reason. This disposable software piece in particular is something that's really exciting to me. Programs that weren't worth writing before because the use case was too small and the effort was too high now are absolutely worth it because building it is cheap. The thing that's expensive is figuring out what exactly you want and speccing it out. If you can write down in a markdown file what exactly you want, you can get the code much easier now, which is super cool. How are we doing over here? Burning through. I'm curious to see how that job goes. Anyways. The shift in modern development. Claude Code is taking over my feed right now. Open Code more so mine, but I feel you for sure. What's interesting isn't just that devs are jumping on it. It's that builders and makers who previously relied on platforms like Lovable or Replit are migrating to it. I don't necessarily agree there. I think what's much more interesting is that senior and experienced developers are starting to embrace it too, because they are both seeing the value of these disposable pieces of software, and also they are so used to orchestrating people that Claude Code just feels like another person that you're orchestrating that is way more capable, but way less good at planning and figuring out what it wants to do. These tools are... Lovable and Replit are still totally viable for shipping fast, but we're seeing a clear shift as people rediscover the inherent beauty of a CLI-first workflow. When you move the interaction into the terminal, the abstraction layer thins out. You aren't just following a managed UI's happy path, you're the one in control. I feel like, especially now that I'm hopping between the different CLI tools, I feel more restricted than ever. Even something as simple as typing in the interface sucks. Option delete does something different between Claude Code and Open Code, and it's so annoying. Oh no, what happened? Oh, it's still going. Never mind. Cool. Just for an example, quick, I'm going to open up Open Code and Claude Code in a random directory. I'm going to type something. Then I'm going to do a new line, something else, another thing, and then start typing one more thing. Watch what happens when I press Option Delete. It deletes the new line. It should not do that. It should only delete to the thing that is, or it should only delete to the last, or it should only delete to the last alphanumeric. So if I do something like this, Option Delete should stop at the end of, or the Option Delete should stop at the end of the kebab casing. It doesn't always do that. And I'm Command Zing right now and it doesn't bring it back. Whereas here, Option Delete keeps me on the new line like it should. It doesn't delete the new line. And if I Command Z, oh no, Command Z also doesn't work here. That's annoying. Yeah. I hate all of this. I just want a real input box so badly. I know terminals better than most people. I have been a Tmux person since I was literally 14. Well, I was a GNU screen person because I'm old enough that I was a GNU screen person. And now I'm a Tmux person. I'm trying to wean myself off it, and it's been really, really tough. That all said, when I'm writing things with multiple lines, which is very often with these tools, I hate using the terminal as my input. It's just bad. And a part of why it's weird in Open Code is they're using the alternative view mode in the terminal, which means they're not using the standard buffer. And the standard buffer is what gives you these standard behaviors. They have to re-implement all of those behaviors in open code in order for it to behave well. That's also why their UI is so much better than Claude Code, because they're not just writing into the standard buffer. But it means that weird things I'm used to behaving certain ways in my terminal have to be manually re-implemented. And I don't feel in control as a result. I don't feel like I have this level of control of my instances the way I do in more traditional software. That said, I have been using these CLI things a lot more, and they're cool as hell. I just don't necessarily agree with the point that the CLIs are giving you this level of full control. This is the part I care a lot more about, though, the collapse of the barrier to entry. What are people actually building with these tools? If you look around, the answer is almost everything. Even just Stypete's shipping is absurd. Get to his GitHub quick. Pete already had his $100 million exit from a big company, so he doesn't have any traditional reason to care a whole lot about what can make money. But he isn't letting that slow him down. He's putting out more software than ever, and it's all entirely free and open source. There's so much cool shit in here. Claudebot's the one that's taking the world by storm. A personal favorite of mine is Codex Bar, which should be somewhere in here. Oh, it's number 3 there now. It used to be lower. Codex Bar is how I keep track of my remaining rate limits across all of my different subscriptions for AI stuff. Super cool. The amount of shit Pete has shipped in just the last few months is absurd. And if you look at his GitHub contribution chart, it is actually hilarious. He has a screenshot of it because I think he broke it. Yeah, he's doing like 530 commits on some days because he just spins things up and ships them. It's crazy. And it really now finally comes down to like, how good are your ideas and how well can you describe them? As the author puts it here, the answer to what are people building? Almost everything. In fact, we've reached a point of saturation. On one hand, we're witnessing the true democratization of software creation. The barrier to entry has effectively collapsed. For the first time, non-devs aren't just consumers of software, they are the architects of their own tools. I still think we're not quite there yet. There are certain things that will help us get there. What I'm more interested in is the really skilled developers like Pete and how much more they can ship by using their existing orchestration abilities and mindset and multiplying that using these AI tools. In the past, if you had a specific problem, you'd spend hours searching for a SaaS product that solved 80% of it. Yep, been there so many times. Today, the workflow shifted. People are opening a CLI or a voice interface and simply describing what they need. We're seeing a surge in personal software. Things like subscription trackers tailored to specific budget styles, Chrome extensions that solve very niche data entry problems, fitness apps with an interface exactly how the specific user wants it. I've built all of these things and more in just the last few weeks. This is a massive shift. Software is becoming a personal utility that you generate rather than a commodity you buy. This is a thing I think a lot about. One of the craziest stats to think about, and there is no way to measure this, sadly. How many times is the average line of code run? When you are paid to write code in a real code base at work, how much do we expect that code to run? This is a weird thing to think about because it's not just importance. When I was at Twitch, I wrote some very important software that only needed to run once for a migration. I wrote some really important software that only runs a few dozen times a week because admins internally were using those pieces of software. I also wrote some things that really weren't too important that run literally thousands of times a minute because they are facing users and there are millions of those users. That all said, almost all code that was being written was used at least a few times, and the average piece of code, especially a piece of code being written by a professional developer, was often run quite a bit. This is shifting. The number of lines of code that are being output in a given day has gone up exponentially because these tools make it so cheap to output code. And the vast majority of that code will be run 0 to 1 times. The vast majority of it. It is going to bring down the average immensely. It doesn't matter that there's a bunch of code that is run millions of times a second if there are millions more lines of code that are never run at all. And this idea that a given piece of code is being run way less is fascinating to me. Another way of thinking about it is, given a specific endpoint, what code runs? Traditionally, when you hit an endpoint, there is specific code bound to that endpoint. There might be a switch statement or something that chooses which subcode, which functions run as a result of the shape of the request. But the actual payload, the binary that is executing when you hit that endpoint, is relatively static until you ship a new update. I think that's going to change too, where the average request is going to result in code existing that might not have before it. And that's a crazy idea. The idea that a user can do a thing and the result isn't that an existing binary is executed to solve some problem, but maybe the endpoint generates new code specific to the shape of the payload, that something new is created upon the hitting of that endpoint. It's just a weird inversion of how software's worked our entire lives. That is just, it's a crazy thought to me. The closest thing we had before was remote execution, where I could send a payload with a JavaScript like binary or just JavaScript type. Or the closest thing we've had before is I could send like a payload of JavaScript text to an endpoint and it would execute it and send me a result. But the idea of an endpoint no longer meaning a one-to-one binding with an existing piece of code, an existing binary, and instead being dynamic based on the shape of the request and the user, is just, it's fucking with my brain a lot. And I wanted to talk about it here because it is fundamentally different from how software has worked all of our lives. This idea that code is expensive enough that a given endpoint should run the code that we put all this time and money into, and that the average line of code that a person's being paid to write is valuable enough that we should be holding it strong and maintaining it for a long time. That's over now. This is a huge fundamental change in how software works that has been keeping, I won't say it's keeping me up at night, but it's got me thinking in a very different way than I have historically. From SaaS to scratch pads, this is another one of those things I feel a lot where historically, I've been the guy who goes and tries out the new SaaS, tries out the new database tool, the new framework, all of those things. I'm not doing that anywhere near as much anymore. When I have an idea or I see something interesting, I hop into my Claude Code directory on my computer. I just have this CC sandbox where whenever I have an idea, I go screw with it and see what comes out of it. It's been really fun to play with. And instead of going to find a solution online to a problem that I have to go subscribe to and test out, I just dick around in Claude Code and it works really well. In fact, I have it building a full linear clone in Elixir as an experiment in a Ralph loop in the background that's been going for 21 minutes and is still going. Excited to see how that comes out. We're entering a new era of software development where the goal isn't always longevity. For years, the industry has been obsessed with building platforms and ecosystems. Absolutely agree. The tide is shifting now. It's towards something more ephemeral. We're moving from SaaS to scratch pads. Yes. Languages like Rust were built for the name, to Rust. The point of Rust is that once you rewrite something in Rust, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Is it more maintainable? Yes, but it's also way more reliable and robust. And when you write code properly in Rust, you don't have to worry about it collapsing the way other things do. Memory leaks, probably not going to happen. Weird one-off runtime errors that you didn't catch in the code, probably not a thing if you use all of the guards and the checkers and things within the Rust ecosystem properly. The Rust compiler makes it way less likely you make the types of mistakes that require software to be iterated on and replaced. That mattered a lot when software was expensive. Now that it's cheap, it's questionable if it matters at all. There are certainly places where those things matter, like in your kernel for your system, or in medical software, or in embedded systems that you can't change the code for. But a random HTTP service in Rust? Come on. A lot of this new software isn't meant to live forever. In fact, it's the opposite. People are increasingly building tools to solve single specific problems exactly once and then discarding them. I did this 4 times in the last 2 days. This is so real. It's so cool realizing these weird problems you have. Like I was setting up a new Linux box running a 5090 to do some local inference stuff a few days ago. Well, yesterday I built it. And I was having a lot of annoying problems getting it configured on the network. So I spun up Claude Code to go solve it. And ended up writing a bunch of scripts to set it up itself because, funny enough, it didn't have sudo access. So it wrote all of these scripts, like 1,000+ line scripts to configure the exact thing I wanted once. So I could run one command, have my machine set up, and then throw away the code and never think about it again. That's wild. That is such a different way of doing things. I never would have cared enough to do that type of thing before. This is software as a disposable utility designed for the immediate now rather than the distant later. What makes this viable today is a specific technical philosophy: CLI first interfaces, local data, and zero onboarding. When you remove the friction of signing up, configuring a database, or navigating a complex UI, the cost of creating a tool drops so low that temporary becomes a feature, not a bug. Yep. Like if you have to go learn a new language or framework or tool or ecosystem to try an idea out or solve some small problem, you're just not going to if it's not big enough. And the size of problem that's worth solving with code has gotten way, way smaller. That's one of the coolest things. Everybody has this threshold in their head. Like, gonna do my best to chart this one out here to try and describe how I am thinking. If there are problems that are large but easy to solve, obviously you're going to try and solve them. If there are problems that are difficult to solve and not that big, you're obviously not going to try and solve them. Everybody has a line somewhere here. Some people literally just do it horizontally. I've seen this before where people there's a certain type of person that doesn't really care about how hard a problem is. They just care about how much it bothers them. And if it bothers them enough, they'll fix it no matter how difficult it is. Somebody like Linus Torvalds is a good example here, where the problem of source code management was annoying enough that he decided to fix it. The problem of not having access to Unix was annoying enough that he decided to fix it. He doesn't really think about how hard it is. He just thinks about how much it bothers him. There are also people who are the opposite, that they only think about how difficult it is to solve. If a problem is easy, it doesn't really matter how big or small it is. They'll just solve it anyways because it isn't too hard for them to do. Most people have a sliding scale more like this, though. Whereas the problem gets more difficult, they are less likely to solve it unless it is hard enough. We're on that. Most people have a sliding scale more like this, though, whereas the problem gets more difficult, the size of the problem has to increase accordingly. Where everything in this area here, they're down to solve because the size of the problem is bigger than the difficulty. But everything in this section here is less likely to be solved because the problem is annoying or tedious and the size of it isn't very big. What's been fun for me is this area here. This range of things that were annoying, but not like pressing problems, that were hard enough, but not hard, or that are also, reword on that. This area of problems that aren't very big, but are hard enough that I wouldn't bother with. That's been eradicated. This whole section here is so fun to just vibe code it out when you're trying to, or like when you're trying to transcode a bunch of random old files, or you're trying to find a picture of your dog, or you're trying to reconfigure your Zish scripts to do something different on your machine. Problems that maybe cost you a few minutes every couple weeks that just weren't worth dealing with before, suddenly can be solved. And what's changing right now is the size of the difficulty of the problems these tools can resolve is just growing constantly. Opus was arguably a shift where this line went from here to like here. It's hard to find the limit of what Opus can't do given the right tools, the right prompt, and the right set of evals that it can use throughout its development process. That's crazy. But this is also why we're getting more and more of these small one-off things and why people are using these tools in such cool ways to just solve a random problem they have. I know I'm doing this a ton. I've never written so much software that I never bothered even putting in a Git repo. It's crazy to think that the majority of the code I've written in the past month, is not even in a Git repo because I don't care, because it's just there to do one thing once. I'm probably at like 50,000 lines of code that I've just thrown away after using it once in just the past couple weeks. It's crazy. As Chris says here, if it takes 5 minutes to spin up a custom solution for a one-off task, you don't need it to persist. You don't care. If you need it again in the future, you just regenerate it the same way. Who cares? The contrast with the traditional SaaS model is stark. SaaS is inherently built to optimize for retention, lock-in, and expansion. It's a business model designed to keep you inside the ecosystem and growing your footprint. Bespoke tools, on the other hand, optimize for immediacy and control. They don't care about your lifetime value as a customer. They only care about solving the task at hand. In many ways, this is a return to how spreadsheets were originally used. That is such a cool comparison. Spreadsheets are the start of so many incredible revolutionary things in software. One of my favorite talks ever is Rethinking Reactivity by Rich Harris. I still go back to this every year or so just to let it break my brain again. And a huge part of the intro for this video is talking about spreadsheets and how powerful they were, even when software was still in really early days. And so much of what we're talking about now does definitely remind me of the old spreadsheet era in a really cool, nostalgic, but also powerful way, where spreadsheets made computers go from this thing that hardcore nerds could do like silly games with and like solve some complex math problems with, into a useful tool for day-to-day people managing the invoices for their business or keeping track of the schedule for their hair salon. Spreadsheets made it possible for anyone to do whatever they needed that involved numbers and timings on a computer without having to write software and know how code worked. You didn't open a spreadsheet to build a permanent multi-year database. You use it as a scratch pad to reason through a problem, calculate a result, and move on. Yeah. In this new landscape, Claude Code is Excel for devs, a powerful, flexible utility for solving immediate problems, rather than Shopify for founders, which is built to be a permanent foundation for a business. It's about getting the job done, then letting the tool go. Absolutely agree here. This is one of the pieces I think a lot of people are missing. If you happen to be one of those people working on problems that Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, Open Code, whatever, struggles with, even with the best models, I'd want to see more because I just haven't seen much there that isn't a prompting issue, honestly. But even if you are one of those people in one of those spaces where it's hard to use these tools to solve real problems, there are people there, like Linus Torvalds, the creator of Linux. That doesn't mean these tools aren't useful to Linus, though. In fact, he's even been contributing to code bases with them recently. Not the code that matters for the actual packages, but code for things like visualizing his weird audio extension thing that he's building. Code to confirm the work you're doing works, or to test out a theory, or to experiment, visualize. All these types of things that used to be really annoying to do went from really annoying to trivial, especially in places that you might not understand well. Like if you're a web dev or even a kernel dev that doesn't know Python well, using these Python libraries is now trivial. But in order to do that, you have to do this really important thing that a lot of devs seem to struggle with: letting go. You have to be okay with the fact that the majority of the code being written by you is going to be thrown out. Most of it won't even be run at all. Some of it will be run once and then thrown away after. It's a weird feeling. But once you get over it, life gets way better. But this is where the piece of the article comes in. This is why the next part matters. Generating software quickly is one thing. Making it survive contact with the real world is a whole different thing. Code is cheap. Software is still expensive. Here's the reality of the current AI native era. Codes become cheap, but software remains incredibly expensive. LLMs have effectively killed the cost of generating lines of code, but they haven't touched the cost of truly understanding a problem. We're seeing a flood of these apps that were built in a weekend, but most of these are just thin wrappers around basic CRUD operations and third-party APIs. They look impressive in a Twitter demo, but they often crumble the moment they hit the friction of the real world. I would say this depends a lot on what the role of the program is. We have vibe coded a bunch of things for my content channel. In particular, Ben is going hard on rebuilding all of our internal tooling for managing things like which sponsors are on which videos and how well are those videos performing. That is more than holding up to our real world test. Could that scale to thousands of users? Maybe not, but it is a piece of software that is resilient, that is on the cloud, that we are using every day without issue. So there's a balance here, again, of how many users, how deep are the problems those users are experiencing, how much variety is there between the users, and how does the software we write scale against that? But problems that are really specific to you, that don't need to have these other considerations, can be more than real world ready, but it depends on what world you're talking about. The cost of software isn't the initial writing, it's the maintenance, the edge cases, the mounting UX debt, the complexities of data ownership. These fast solutions are very brittle. The subscription tracker you vibe coded breaks the moment a bank changes their CSV export formats. The Chrome extension dies the second a target website's DOM shifts. A fitness app becomes unusable as soon as a user needs robust offline support or reliable data sync. For the latter, use Convex. It helps a lot. On that note, though, actually, I think a lot of these problems can be solved by better tools to fix these things. Like the CSV format change could be a in-between tool that will reformat the CSV using AI or detect when the format changes and adjust accordingly. These inputs and outputs being more dynamic is a thing I expect to see in the future, where if an error rate is detected on this input or output, that it can adjust the code accordingly automatically. That I could absolutely see happening and being really, really cool. Or things like offline support and sync. Those come down to the primitives you're using to build the data layer. And if those primitives evolve enough that they work right out of the box, these problems are solved just by using the right tools. And more, I think that's going to start happening. Lately, the author's been seeing a lot of doom scrolling, Chris has been seeing lots of doom saying on Hacker News, Reddit, and Twitter about the end of engineering. This misses the point entirely. We aren't witnessing the end of the profession. We're entering a new era of it. I agree here. I don't know what this will look like long term, though. How many engineers do we need for this? What are their day-to-days like? Everybody asks me what I think software dev will be like in 2030. I don't know what it'll be like in March. But I know it will be different because it's very different now than it was 3 months ago. And if you haven't felt any differences, then you haven't tried these things enough. The value of engineering is the value of an engineer is shifting away from the how of syntax and towards the what and why of systems. Real engineering lies in the abstractions and the architecture, as well as the communications and the orchestration across all of it. Who is working on what? When will it be done? What do we expect from this? All of that is a skill that leaders have that traditional programmers don't. And leveling up there is super important. I just filmed a video all about that, about why senior devs are liking these tools more. It's all about knowing how to structure a system that lasts, understanding why a specific rate limiting strategy is necessary, knowing how to manage a distributed cache, and knowing exactly when not to store environment variables. Man, environment variables are possibly the single biggest problem a lot of these tools have. That and authentication, authorization, and all of the layers around it makes all of this more annoying than it should be. I'm hopeful that we'll see leaps and bounds type solutions that make this stuff way better in the near future. We're not there yet. AI often feels powerful because it hides the complexity, but as an engineer, your job's to manage that complexity, not ignore it. The tools have changed, but the fundamental requirement for engineering rigor has never been higher. I don't know if this will change or not. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, if the models get twice as good again, will that rigor matter as much? I don't know. I actually don't. Maybe the models don't even need to get better. They just need better tools to recognize when they're doing things wrong, or bigger context windows to keep track of what they're doing right. I don't know. Then we have the distribution illusion. There's a flip side. With the barrier to entry gone, the noise level has reached an all-time high. My feeds are currently flooded with AI entrepreneurs claiming 5-figure monthly recurring revenue numbers for apps they built in an afternoon. Most of these are bullshit and fail super, super fast. I absolutely agree. This is nonstop. Even just now, even just today, I was looking for ways to manage all of my vibe coding stuff in parallel, and I have been sent 3 options that seem to have just appeared all at once. We have AutoClaude, which lets you have a Kanban board for managing all your Claude code instances. Vibe Kanban, which is similar with OpenCode, QuenCode, Codex, and all the other solutions too. And Automaker by WebDevCody, good friend and other awesome YouTube channel worth watching. He's ahead of us on a lot of these things. He's almost perpetually 6 months to a year ahead. He built this with similar goals. These are all open source projects that do roughly the same thing that seem to have just appeared in the past week or two. And this is going to keep happening as more and more people spin these out. And distribution is going to matter more and more. How fast you can write code and how good you can write code matters less, and how far you can distribute that code, how relevant the thing is and feels, and how well you can communicate that to the world matters more than ever. Also, good to see you in chat, Cody. Hope you're doing well. Seriously, go give Cody a follow on YouTube if you haven't. If you haven't subscribed to me, subscribe to him first, then hit the sub button for me. But he's so far ahead of this shit. He beat me to Convex. Anyways, turns out the author agrees these claims are highly suspect. When you see a creator with no existing distribution and no clear moat claiming 10K MRR on a weekend project, it's usually a play for engagement rather than a reflection of business reality. Some of these stories are probably true, but in most cases, they aren't actually blueprints for technical innovation. They're marketing case studies. These individuals succeed because they have mastered the art of capturing attention in a crowded landscape, not because they have an AI copilot. Yep. These other skills matter more and more. Again, I just filmed this video, and it's crazy how relevant a lot of my points are now. But the idea of capability being the thing that matters for engineers just isn't true anymore, because AI has leveled all of our capability up. What's happening is people are realizing the other parts matter more than they thought before. If you don't have the ability to be clear in what should be built, to delegate across these agents, to orchestrate the whole thing, and then explain to the world why it matters, does not matter how much code you can generate. Previously, we would hold these engineers up high because their contribution charts were nuts, but nothing they were doing was useful. If you can't communicate the value of the things you're doing and be very clear and concise in why I should use your thing, nothing else matters. And just bumping your capability up a ton doesn't solve any real problems. We've entered an era where the ability to generate code is no longer the bottleneck. The real challenge has shifted to distribution. Hi, good time to have a YouTube channel, isn't it? By the way, if you're building something really cool, you raised money, and you don't know how to get it to people, my DMs are open, and you can get my email for potential sponsorship stuff on my YouTube channel very easily, youtube@t3.gg. This is what I'm here for. More importantly, though, distinguishing the genuine utility from the get-rich-quick posturing that has become so prevalent in the industry. I have done so much of this for brands. Like, the majority of the sponsors I bring on the channel, I don't do an ad after they pay me. At least not immediately. Most will eventually do the ad, but I'll often have to do 3 to 6 months of back and forth with the brand, fixing their onboarding, fixing their go-to-market, helping them rebrand and structure the pitch for their product. It takes a lot of time to do that for some companies, and it's crazy. Like, almost half of the brands I've worked with have, through the process of me refining the pitch, rewrote their whole homepage just to match a better way of describing what they're actually here for and why you should care. The why you should care is a much, much more important question than ever to answer, because you have more competition than ever. And if you have a great idea that's hidden underneath your inability to talk about it, Somebody like me can just come in, steal the idea, vibe code an alternative, communicate it better, and put you out of business. Being good at talking and describing why your shit matters has never mattered more. And I probably should consider this. If a sponsor hits me up, or if a brand hits me up to sponsor and their product just isn't there or their marketing just isn't good and I don't know how to help them describe it, it might be easier for me to just steal the idea, go vibe code my own alternative and sell that than it is for me to teach the brand how to do marketing. XKCD moment. Situation. Theo has 70 plus unread DMs. Theo says in a YouTube video, my DMs are open. Situation. Theo has 5,986 plus unread DMs. So real. Way too real. These people haven't stumbled upon a secret shortcut. They've simply found a way to execute their existing advantage faster and potentially unlocked it in the future. And they potentially unlocked it in the first place if learning to code was rightfully too big an undertaking for a side project idea. I don't think these... Here's where my hot takes are going to come in. I don't think you could be successful at selling software if you aren't highly motivated. If your motivation led to you becoming a great programmer, awesome. If that motivation is strong enough that it can now bring you to learning how to communicate about your ideas better and show people and distribute the things you're building better, awesome. But if coding was too hard for you to learn, now you can code for free. The rest is just as hard, if not harder. Explaining an idea concisely took me as much time to learn as JavaScript did. And if anything, I am continuously learning with both, but I'm learning more about communication and clarity every day than I am about fucking JavaScript. And if you aren't willing to sit there and learn those hard things, you're not going to go anywhere. If you learned how to code 10 years ago, pushed through all that hard stuff when you were motivated, and now you've just been coasting for 10 years, you're fucked. It's over. If you don't have motivation, you're not going to go anywhere. I felt this a lot because I'm a content creator, and I'm going to go down a little bit of an anecdote here, but it's one that's important to me because it's a real interaction I had. We're going to start this with a weird poll. You're in a plane. Imagine you're flying somewhere, passenger aircraft. The pilot is suddenly incapacitated. They had a heart attack, they fainted, something happened. Can you land the plane? Yes, maybe, or no. If you know how people answer this, don't spoil in chat. I want to see what you actually think. And you, the viewer, too, think this in your head. If you're on a Boeing 747 or some shit, pilot goes unconscious, can you go into the cockpit, assuming you have the ability to go in, sit down, everything's fine there, can you land the plane? Less than half of my audience is saying no. Less than half. Here's the harsh reality. If you're not already certified, you're not going to land that fucking plane. They land themselves. No, they fucking don't. They do a lot of the like specifics where like making sure the right flap is down the right amount based on your current velocity. It helps with a ton of that. But if you could like the radios are obnoxious. Like most people, 99% of you won't even get the fucking radios working. You're not going to land that goddamn plane. The reason I ask this is because most people assume they can do a thing that is highly skilled if they had the opportunity. Most people think they could be a successful founder if only they had enough followers on Twitter and they knew how to code. Most people think they'd be a great Google employee, but learning to code is too hard. Most people think they'd be a great YouTuber, but editing video and OBS are too hard. If only these tools were easier to use, if only video editing was less complicated, then everyone could be a YouTuber. Because that's the hard part, because that's the first problem you ran into. The radio thing even happens to an extent here too. If the airplane radios were easier, everyone could land the plane. No, you fucking can't. Be realistic here. 3/4 of men answer yes to this question. Fun fact. The majority of men think they can land the plane. I bring this up because of a real conversation I had, would have been about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, where I was talking to a developer and he said, basically, I'm looking to diversify my income sources. I'm going to pick up YouTube. Any advice for me to have a successful channel with as little effort as possible? The way I raged, I had multiple witnesses to the second version of this conversation because he followed up the next day, which is really funny. I'm thankful I did because I would have went fucking insane otherwise. Do you know what his reasoning was for thinking he could do this? Well, I kind of like cameras and talking's pretty easy. I don't see why it would be hard for me to be a YouTuber. Seems like it's pretty easy what you're doing, Theo. Yeah. So where this really fell apart was when I asked him a quick question. What YouTube channels do you watch? Do you know what he answered to this? Honestly, I don't watch YouTube very much. God, does it make a sound every time I do that? Can I disable that? Whatever, you can fix it in the post edit. Thanks, FaZe. Yeah. This interaction has haunted me for 2 years. Let me turn off the mute and whisper, or mute the sound and whisper flow quick. Cool. Sound is now off. Cool. Yeah. This interaction has haunted me for almost 2 years now. Because this is how most people work. This is how most people think. They legitimately believe that whatever the thing in front of them right now is that's in the way is the only blocker. And if they could just get that out of the way, it'd be so easy. He immediately started asking, like after saying this, he didn't even let me start to interrupt saying, if you don't know how YouTube works, this is probably going to be hard. He just quickly says, I don't watch YouTube that much. What editor should I start using? Are you joking? It just, yeah. I don't know if you guys know this about me. I watch a disgusting amount of YouTube. When I'm not like at a conference or in meetings all day, I'll do 6 to 8 hours of YouTube a day. Like straight up. I love the platform. I love watching other creators. I watch a shitload of YouTube. And I did that for a decade and a half before I ever thought to make a channel of my own. I didn't even want to. My channel happened accidentally. Because I was doing Twitter Spaces and wanted to show people in a more visual way what my stack was. So I did a live stream and then re-uploaded it on YouTube, so I had something to link to. And now I have this YouTube channel that basically runs my life and my businesses. This was not something I chose to do. This is something I had to do because I had specific other problems I wanted to solve, and all of those led to me being here. None of the best YouTubers chose to be a YouTuber. They ended up here because other things they wanted brought them here. And this guy cared too much about camera equipment and video editing software to realize that he didn't care about YouTube. It's just insane to me. The reason I did the airplane thing just now is because the second time this guy had the conversation with me, there was a camera DP standing next to me, somebody who came from the Hollywood world that switched over to software dev, who overheard this whole conversation and felt like he was going mad. As soon as this person walked away, he pulled me aside and was like, what the fuck? Does everybody just think that way? Like, how does somebody actually believe they could just be a YouTuber when they don't know anything about it? I asked him if he knows how many people think they can land an airplane. Or actually, I asked him first, do you think you could land an airplane? He's like, fuck no. Why could I land an airplane? I did video and now I do code. It's like, watch this. And I went around the table and asked every single person at the table, do you think you could land a plane if the pilot's incapacitated? Every single one said yes or maybe. Nobody else said no. This is the delusion. It's kind of a Dunning-Kruger, but it's deeper than that. Most people think that they would be incredible at whatever thing they see in front of them if only this random thing directly in front of them wasn't a little too hard to get over. Code Bradley in chat here said, as someone who's been in marketing for 15 years, everyone thinks they could be a good marketer. Ready for a real honesty moment from me? I didn't think I could be. One of the first things I was planning on hiring for T3 Tools, aka Ping, aka now T3 Chat, I was planning on hiring a marketer really early because I didn't think I would ever be able to build that skill. That and sales. Turns out I'm okay at those things. Actually, I would go as far as I am pretty damn good at those things. But I had to learn those and skill up in them out of need. I didn't go in thinking I could do it if only my inbox was easier to manage. No, I went in humbly expecting to suck at the thing and slowly got good. I need a tissue, one sec. Anyways. Yeah. So all of that was a tangent because I don't necessarily agree that unlocking the average person's ability to code is going to push them past the next step. If the friction of learning a video editor or learning how to set up and use OBS or figuring out what camera you should use is enough to keep you from being a creator, if I hand you solutions to all of those problems, you're going to be a shit creator still. If you're so unmotivated that learning how to code was too much friction for you to go do the thing, you're going to be a shit founder and marketer and business person as well, because there are just as many hard friction points you'll hit, many of which are even harder when it comes to marketing and distribution. You're not going to succeed there. And if you really want to prove me wrong, go nuts. You don't have a lot. If you don't believe me here, then you don't have a following yet. Go make a Twitter account and get to 10,000 followers. Hit me up when you're done. There's a useful framing for this shift. AI has effectively removed engineering leverage as a primary differentiator. Yes. This has been a weird one for me because I have had a specific set of eng skills that basically don't matter anymore. The thing that made me a valuable asset in my previous jobs was that I could come in and take a project that is way fucking behind and get it back on schedule without compromising on quality or capability. I am really, really good at taking a long roadmap, figuring out what to cut and shift around in order to make it actually doable in a reasonable amount of time. I've always been the ship fast guy, and that doesn't matter anymore. I was a very rare type of engineer before that everyone can be now. Claude Code does what I did at Twitch faster, more efficiently, and cheaper. And that's wild to think about. That was a ton of my leverage. I would just ship the solution faster. If you can go prompt it in Claude Code and get the solution out just as fast, that doesn't matter anymore. Thankfully, I've also leveled up these other skills around marketing, communication, distribution, orchestration, all these other things that matter even more. So the fact that I don't have a unique lever here anymore barely even matters. But all of my friends who worked this way too are fucked. When any developer can use an LLM to build and deploy a complex feature in a fraction of the time it used to take, the ability to write code fast especially is no longer the competitive advantage it once was. It is no longer enough to just be a builder. Couldn't agree more. Instead, success now hinges on factors that are much harder to automate. Taste, timing, and deep intuitive understanding of your audience matters way more than ever. You can generate a product in a weekend, but that is worthless if you're building the wrong thing or launching it to a room full of people who aren't listening. Yep. Or even better, an empty room, which is what most of y'all do. And then you complain that the algorithm is so bad. If only the algorithm was better, everyone would know about my slop app. Good luck with that. In this new environment, the code has become the easy part. The hard part remains exactly where it's always been, finding a way to get people to care. Yeah. Another way of framing this is that previously, code was hard enough that you needed a lot of coders once you had someone and something that was worth caring about. If it turns out Twitch is worth caring about, it takes a lot of engineers to build all the pieces. So for every one person who understands this and cares enough about this to do all of the other parts, you need a team of 10 to 20 engineers to do the rest. Now that part isn't as important, or at least it's not as important in the same ways as it was, and it's much easier to automate, the hard part still exists. But if you're just an eng, you just are the accessory to the leaders who are actually getting the thing out there, you're useless now, to an extent. And that sucks. And this is where I think a lot of the insecurity is coming from, is that 20-to-1 ratio of 20 good engineers to one person who understands the thing that they're building. That ratio went from 20-to-1 to like 1-to-1 here. So what happens to the other 19 engineers? I don't know. I'm not trying to hire them. So who wins here? First, you'll have domain experts who are stuck with boring, repetitive problems. Then there are internal teams building throwaway tooling, the kind of scripts and internal apps that need to work immediately rather than look perfect. There are whole billion-dollar companies that were built just around this. My co-founder, Mark, my CTO, was working at Retool before he joined my company. Retool was a way to build much easier internal dashboards that access data across all the different places that your company might have data from. So some internal support team that needs better visualizations of how much usage a user has on their account when they're doing support, some random person on that team that's not even an engineer can whip up something in Retool to manage it. Now with vibe coding, all these other things, the ability for a company or even an individual to do the same thing reduces the value of a tool like Retool. They got to a very, very high valuation, very, very fast, because pre-AI, everyone needed shit like this. They were getting contracts with everyone from like Philips and Pinterest to Stripe and Amazon, which is a wild range. But now, barely matters. They are trying desperately to catch up with all the other AI alternatives that now exist. That market is huge enough for Retool to become a multi-billion-dollar company. It's also addressed well enough now for Retool to be struggling to survive. Power users also see a massive gain here, particularly when they are looking to replace brittle manual workflows with something more robust. Finally, it's a win for those engineers who prioritize ownership of the solutions over high-gloss polish. And yes, tools like Opus 4.5, Claude Code, and Cursor are genuinely useful for engineers. They are remarkably good at removing boilerplate, implementing features, and writing unit tests. One of my favorite use cases lately, especially since starting a new job, is generating personalized documentation and walkthroughs of features to get up to speed on product code bases and how all the nuances work. It's been extremely helpful in getting up to speed. Yeah, it's so nice having AI that can understand a large code base well enough to give you useful insights. But here's the reality. LMs are far from perfect at writing code, even if it compiles first time. Even with the high quality prompting and clear rules, these models will still make mistakes. Speaking as someone who uses these tools every day, you cannot simply trust the output outright. You still have to review the code as if it were a pull request from a teammate. You have to read the logic, check the assumptions, and often make manual edits to get it right. I am starting to drop this part. I'll just tell the model what it did wrong, and it will fix it. And I am suspicious that the amount of this will go down more and more, especially, again, to go back to my chart earlier, If the problem size is small enough, I'm not going to bother reading that fucking code. If the problem of size is big enough and the difficulty is big enough, I'll probably take the time to read the code. But it varies, and how you think about these things will vary a lot. After all, you'll likely be sending this to a teammate for review, and maybe CodeRabbit, I guess. Okay, to be clear, tools like CodeRabbit, GrapTile, all these AI code reviews, do those before you send it to your teammate, because they will catch small, annoying mistakes that your teammate shouldn't be dealing with. I know those companies sponsor me. I don't care. They're super fucking useful. AI code review is a way to not waste your team's time doing code review. Super useful. Your teammates still should review the code, absolutely, but they shouldn't be reviewing it for small syntax mistakes. They should be reviewing it for understanding of the code base, for reducing bust factor, and making sure what you're doing is aligned with the goal of what needs to be done. AI isn't great at that, but it'll catch all your stupid fucking syntax and weird one-off errors much better than a human will. Don't waste the people's time with that shit. This is a really good question. Is it fair to make them review something you didn't even write or bother to check? Humans, no. AI, absolutely. Letting an AI review code that an AI wrote is awesome, and you should absolutely do that. These tools help you move faster, but they do not replace the need for a critical eye or your years of experience, and they do not understand the overall problem space better than you. The hype makes it look like we're entering a golden era of SaaS. We aren't. We're entering an era of personal software, tools you generate to solve a problem and then move on. With $20, a few hours of spare time, and a bit of patience, almost anyone can ship a functional app. We're entering the era of personal software, where the gap between an idea and a working product is narrower than it's ever been. In this new reality, engineering expertise remains incredibly valuable, but the nature of the role is shifting. Relevance is not fading. Instead, it's about leveraging these tools to build at a higher level than was previously possible. True expertise is now required to steer these systems and provide the technical oversight that LLMs lack. While AI is undeniably good at writing code, it remains poor at architecting maintainable, distributable, and scalable systems. This is where non-technical leaders who think they can fire their development teams are making a significant mistake. Until we see the arrival of an artificial intelligence that renders this entire discussion moot, believing that technical expertise can be replaced by a prompt is a strategic error. I fully agree here. And building a robust software still requires a human who understands the underlying principle of the craft. A different way of framing this: hard problems are still hard, and motivating yourself through them is the key. A highly motivated vibe coder that will take the time to figure out why their things are breaking and learn them will be way more valuable than an experienced engineer who's kind of checked out and is just not paying attention to the code they're merging. Motivation is going to be the key differentiator. Do you care enough to skill up in the areas you don't know? Because if you're willing to sit there and ask endless questions to the AI to figure out where your knowledge gaps are, figure out what might be going wrong, and try all these different theories, the patience and diligence and resilience is going to matter more than ever. And if you're already burnt out, you're fucked. You're absolutely fucked. If you can't find excitement in what these tools enable, you just feel frustration and tired, you're probably not going to survive this transition. You need to have the motivation to push through. You don't just need the skills. I would argue you could build the technical expertise faster than ever with enough motivation, but you can't get that motivation by just having the expertise. The bottom line is that while the tools have changed, the fundamentals of good engineering have not. While barrier to entry may be gone, judgment, taste, and responsibility are still the job. Absolutely agree. This was a fantastic article. I know I didn't agree with all of it, but the framing was incredible, and the majority of it is more than on point. I have a feeling I'll be keeping a close eye on Chris and the other things he does. Turns out he's also a big Elixir and LiveView fan. I love Elixir, so hyped. In fact, as I mentioned before, this whole time I have been running this gigantic project in the background, which looks like it actually finished in 35 minutes and 50 seconds. So I'm going to go play with that. I got nothing else to say here. Stay motivated, keep building, keep doing cool shit. And until next time, peace, nerds. I think that was a really good one. Thank you, Code Stirring. He's the author, by the way. Happy that you were down for me to use that. Thank you again for writing that, sharing that, and letting me use it as a source for content. I think that was a really, really fun video. And I hope like that it can get the ideas you were sharing out to more people. Let's see if this project works. Give me a sec. I have to run these first, it looks like. Oh, apparently the author of that article, Chris, also just beat Outer Wilds. Love that. A sec. Now look at that. Fake block. Interesting. Let's try this again. God, why is this broken? Okay, that did not work. Joyce, I missed a huge super thanks from Ines on YouTube. Sorry about that. Also, Tim Holan joining on the T3 Club on YouTube. Thank you both. Apparently, if I refresh the page, it'll work. Oh, look at that. It did. Oh no, what's breaking? Too much code it wrote. I might have to ignore depths. Yeah, it did it. Okay, this looks like a much closer to what it actually did. So 8,200 lines of code. I was expecting more. Apparently the problem is I didn't have a team. Refreshing and not seeing anything about creating a team. If you use Claude Code through Ghosty, you're fine. Oh shit, Foul has GLM image going. Oh boy. I need to use on my real Foul account 1 sec. It has an image edit too. That'll be fun to play with. Okay, so it's really bad at special fonts because that does not look great. It has a bit of like an anime-ish look to it. It's far from my favorite. Like for comparison, let that run. Like significantly better. Okay, that loop did not go great. Yo, use 1Password for everything. It makes life much easier. Yeah, I should probably use the Chrome Dev MCP. Motivation for the product you're building. It's motivation to solve problems is what matters the most always. I think everybody I missed while I was filming that. I think I got most of you guys. Legmore and Slip Second, thank you both for the subs. Code Bradley with the Prime. Counter with the Prime. Goose, good to see you, man. The tier 3, appreciate that. Some of that's my money, isn't it? McKay with the 22 months of support straight. Tapo91 with the 2 months as well. I don't know what the future looks like. I'm just going to keep solving my problems. I have a lot I'm doing. Sorry. What were you saying? Can you copy paste what you were thinking of? Because there's a lot here. This is solving problems and manually thinking through and pushing through the mental energy. Offloading to AI feels like a betrayal of that. Yeah, it's a whole rewiring. Oh, yeah. The motivation is important. Finding problems that you care enough about to solve. Absolutely key. Always what matters. And rethinking like what problems are worth solving to let your brain bring you to those things more easily. Essential. Cool. I don't know if I have any more videos in me with how fucking clogged up my nose is, and I'm really happy about the 2 we just recorded. I'm probably going to stream tomorrow as well, especially if I can finally fucking breathe out my nose again. Oh, it's all over for you guys once that happens. Let's figure out who we're raiding. Leaning Leslie. I love Leslie Tanner streams. So yeah, let's do Leslie Tanner. The Outer Wilds. I don't like rating Outer Wilds things because spoilers, and I want everybody to play Outer Wilds without spoilers. So you should go do that. But also check out Leslie Tanner. Incredible vibes, incredible stream. I'll probably see you guys tomorrow, assuming I can talk and breathe. I'm gonna hop into Leslie's stream for a bit because I love this guy.
What they believe about yourself, the fact that they are holding that candle for you is
yeah,
oh, raid message.
It's not what's important. The result's important.
The result, and then I'm going to go one step further. When you find yourself in this position of power, right? Great tits, great ass, funny, interesting, life of the party. Does it feel powerful?
Yes. I'm not the life of the party in the way where everybody wants me to
There's
be.
your message.
Like,
from vibe coding to just vibes, this seems fun.
Right.
And making everybody mad. So you're having the
Get that copied onto your clipboards, guys.
The power of everybody wanting
Get ready to spam.
The life of the party. I'm having the negative power that I'm dragging it down, but also
have fun, nerds.
Knowing that they can't take away from me that I have a great rack. So
Right, and it's got a gravitas to it. You know, people can't get enough of it. They